The Spectral Fleet Ensign Mark Bennett was part of a naval exercise when radar picked up an entire fleet of ships appearing from nowhere. The vessels were from a bygone era, their wooden hulls creaking as they sailed closer. As they neared, Bennett saw the ghostly crews manning the decks, their eyes fixed on an unseen horizon. The spectral fleet sailed silently past, their mission unknown, shrouded in mystery. The eerie calm left in their wake sent chills through the crew. The ghostly fleet vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared, leaving Bennett and his team deeply unsettled. The haunting presence served as a chilling reminder of the ocean's dark past and the countless souls lost to its depths. The encounter lingered in their minds, a spectral memory of the sea's secrets. The Submerged Graveyard Seaman. Luke Palmer was part of a mission to lay underwater cables. While diving, he discovered a graveyard of sunken ships. As he explored, ghostly sailors appeared, silently reenacting the battles that had sunk their vessels. Palmer's air supply began to malfunction, and he struggled to breathe. The spectral crew guided him towards the surface, ensuring his safety. Once back on the ship, Palmer was deeply shaken. The encounter was a stark reminder of the ocean's dark and haunted history, a testament to the countless lives lost beneath the waves. The lost platoon corporal James Taylor and his squad were conducting training exercises on a remote island when they encountered an old, overgrown military camp. They soon realized it belonged to a platoon that vanished decades ago. As night fell, ghostly soldiers appeared, still patrolling and performing drills. Taylor and his squad watched in eerie silence, unable to comprehend the spectral figures moving with precision. The haunting presence of the ghostly soldiers left Taylor and his team deeply unsettled. Their minds raced with the reality of the island's dark past and the restless souls it harbored. The encounter was a chilling reminder of the soldiers who had disappeared, their spirits eternally bound to the island, a testament to a forgotten history. The Eerie Island base Sergeant Tom Mitchell's unit was stationed on an abandoned island base for a special operation. Strange occurrences began: ghostly figures in old uniforms, disembodied voices, and malfunctioning equipment. Mitchell discovered the island was the site of a failed secret experiment during World War II. The restless spirits of those who perished now haunted the base, seeking justice and peace. The haunting presence of the ghostly figures left Mitchell and his team deeply unsettled. The spectral soldiers moved with purpose, their voices a constant reminder of the island's dark past. Each encounter was a chilling testament to the failed experiment and the restless souls it had claimed. The unit's mission became more than just an operation. It was a journey through a haunted history. The jungle's Echo Lieutenant Jake Mason's unit was on a reconnaissance mission deep in the jungle. One night they heard echoing cries of distress. Following the sounds, they stumbled upon an old, abandoned encampment. The cries grew louder, turning into haunting wails. Mason saw ghostly figures of soldiers, their faces twisted in eternal agony, reliving their final horrifying moments. The ghostly figures moved through the camp, their pain palpable. The jungle had trapped their souls, forever echoing their torment. The haunting presence left Mason and his team deeply unsettled, a chilling reminder of the jungle's dark history. Each wail and shadowy figure was a testament to the suffering endured by the soldiers who never made it out, their agony eternally preserved in the jungle's depths. The Ghostly Convoy. Sergeant Ben Richards was on a routine patrol when his convoy encountered a thick, unnatural fog. Out of the mist emerged an old, battered convoy of military trucks. As they passed, Richards noticed the spectral drivers, soldiers from a long-lost unit. The ghostly drivers stared ahead, eyes hollow, faces etched with despair. Richards and his team watched in silent horror as the ghostly convoy vanished into the fog as suddenly as it appeared. The haunting encounter left Richards and his team deeply shaken, their minds racing with questions. The Ghostly Convoy's appearance served as a stark reminder of the past tragedies that still haunted the land. The fog lifted, but the eerie memory lingered, a chilling testament to the soldiers who never returned. The Haunted Lighthouse petty officer Ryan Stevens was assigned to maintain a remote lighthouse. Strange things began happening. Unexplained lights, distant screams, and objects moving on their own. Stevens discovered that the lighthouse keeper from decades ago had mysteriously vanished. One stormy night, he saw the ghostly keeper guiding a ship through the fog, forever bound to his post. The haunting presence left Stevens deeply unnerved, a chilling reminder of the lighthouse's dark history. The Cursed Submarine commander Alex Ford and his team were exploring a decommissioned submarine when the power abruptly cut out. In the pitch darkness, ghostly whispers and the clang of metal echoed through the hull. Ford's flashlight flickered, revealing the ghostly figure of the former captain, reliving their fateful final dive. Panic spread as the apparitions of the doomed crew appeared, their faces twisted in agony. Apparition, leave this place. We need to get out now. Navigating through the darkness, the ghostly whales followed them. Emerging into daylight, the submarine loomed behind, a silent sentinel of its haunted past. The encounter left Ford and his team with a deep sense of dread and respect for its eerie history. The Phantom Ship Lieutenant Jack Harrison. Lieutenant Jack Harrison's crew encountered an abandoned ship drifting in open waters. Boarding it, they found signs of a violent struggle, but no crew. Bloodstains marked the deck, and overturned furniture hinted at a desperate battle. As night fell, an eerie silence enveloped the ship. Suddenly, ghostly sounds of sailors' screams and echoing footsteps filled the air. Harrison's pulse quickened as he saw shadowy figures replaying their last moments, eternally trapped in their doomed vessel. One figure, a captain, seemed to lock eyes with Harrison, his expression a mix of warning and despair. The crew, paralyzed with fear, watched the spectral reenactment in horror. Leading his team back to their boat, the haunted ship's ghostly whales following them into the night. The Sunken Squadron, Captain Ethan Turner. Captain Ethan Turner led a diving expedition to recover artifacts from a downed World War II fighter plane. As they descended, eerie whispers echoed through the water, and shadows darted past their lights. Turner saw ghostly pilots still seated in their cockpits, eyes locked in a deathly stare. Fear gripped the team as the spectral presence grew stronger. Unnerved by the chilling sights and sounds, the divers fled to the surface, leaving the haunted wreck undisturbed, vowing never to return. The ocean's depths held its secrets, and the sunken squadron remained a ghostly legend.
The whispers in the trenches. Private James stood alone on guard duty one dark night during the war. The distant sounds of fighting filled the air. Suddenly, he heard faint voices calling his name in different languages, English, German, and others he didn't recognize. The voices sounded sad, like they belonged to lost souls seeking something. James quickly turned around with his flashlight, hoping to find the source of the voices, but there was nothing there. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the narrow trench. They seemed to surround him, sending chills down his spine. Fear gripped James as he realized he was hearing something beyond the living. The voices stopped abruptly when dawn broke, leaving him shaken and bewildered. This eerie encounter stayed with him, making him question what else could be hiding in the darkness of the trenches. Perhaps spirits of the fallen soldiers themselves, trapped between worlds. Corporal Harris had heard tales of ghostly apparitions in the trenches, but never believed them until one foggy night on patrol. As he moved cautiously through the maze-like trenches, he spotted a shadowy figure ahead. Thinking it was a lost soldier, he called out, but the figure did not respond and continued to glide through the fog. As Harris drew closer, he saw the figure had no clear features, just glowing eyes. His heart raced, and he froze in terror. The apparition floated silently past him, sending a chill down his spine. His legs felt rooted to the ground as the ghostly figure faded into the mist. Shaken by the encounter, Harris couldn't shake the sense of dread. He shared his story, and it spread through the ranks, becoming a legend. The experience haunted him, leaving him to wonder if the trenches held more than just the living. Sergeant Thompson was known for his bravery, but nothing prepared him for the touch of the unseen. One quiet night, while crouched in a deserted section of the trench, he felt an icy hand grip his shoulder. Spinning around, he expected to see a fellow soldier, but found only empty air. The cold touch remained, squeezing tighter, as if warning him of some impending doom. Panic surged through him, and he stumbled back, heart racing. The phantom grip vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, but the memory of that ghostly touch haunted Thompson. Every night after, he dreaded being alone in the trenches, fearing the return of the phantom grip. His once steady hands now trembled, and his confident demeanor was replaced with a wary, haunted look. The trenches were not just a battlefield. They were a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred, leaving even the bravest souls with lingering fear. Private Lewis prided himself on his rational mind, but one night shattered his beliefs. Sitting in a cramped trench, he watched in disbelief as his rifle, resting against the trench wall, lifted into the air before crashing back down. Helmets, canteens, even a tin of biscuits followed suit, levitating and then falling with eerie precision. Fear gripped Lewis as he witnessed objects moving on their own. The air felt heavy, charged with an unsettling energy that defied explanation. Was it the spirits of fallen comrades, or something more sinister? Unable to comprehend the phenomenon, Lewis found himself questioning everything he thought he knew. The experience left him with an unshakable sense of unease, his rationality shaken to its core. The trenches, already a place of profound horror, now harbored a mysterious force that mocked his understanding of the world. As dawn broke, Lewis remained haunted by the night's events, forever changed by the inexplicable encounter in the heart of war's darkness. Lieutenant Foster, on patrol before dawn, encountered a spectral presence that defied reason. In the shadowy depths of the trench, he spotted a figure cloaked in darkness, its faintly glowing eyes fixated on him. Foster's breath caught as he realized the figure was not one of his men. The Spectre turned slowly, its gaze penetrating the night with an intensity that froze Foster in place. He tried to speak, but his voice failed him amidst the oppressive silence. Time seemed suspended as he faced the inexplicable apparition. With a final, chilling glance, the Spectre vanished into the trench's shadows, leaving Foster shaken to his core. The encounter lingered in his mind, haunting his thoughts with questions that had no answers. The trenches, already steeped in fear and death, now held another layer of mystery, an ominous presence that blurred the line between the living and the dead, reminding Foster of the fragility of life in the midst of war's relentless grip.
Echoes from the battlefield beyond. Waterloo, Belgium. While visiting the historic battlefield of Waterloo, Sergeant Mark Collins felt a strange energy in the air. As he walked the grounds, he began to hear the distant sounds of battle. Cannons firing, horses neighing, and soldiers shouting. Suddenly, ghostly figures appeared, reenacting scenes from the famous battle. Collins watched in awe and fear as the past unfolded before his eyes. He saw soldiers from both sides locked in combat, their faces showing pain and determination. One spectral officer, dressed in a British uniform, looked directly at Collins, as if aware of his presence. The officer's eyes were filled with sorrow and resignation. As the vision faded, Collins felt a deep sense of connection to the history of the place. Estonia, Belgium. During a visit to the Arden Forest, Corporal Mike Reynolds found himself exploring the remnants of World War II foxholes near Bastogne. As he examined one particularly deep foxhole, he slipped and fell in. Trapped and disoriented, Reynolds felt a sudden, intense cold. Out of the darkness, a ghostly figure of a World War II soldier appeared. The soldier's uniform was tattered, his face weary and eyes hollow. He reached out and pointed to a narrow path through the trees. Despite his fear, Reynolds felt compelled to follow the ghost's directions. The spectral guide led him safely out of the forest. When Reynolds turned to thank him, the apparition had vanished. Shaken but grateful, Reynolds realized he had been saved by the spirit of a soldier who had died in those very woods. The haunted hangar, RAF Scampton, England. Flight Lieutenant James Parker was stationed at RAF Scampton, home of the legendary dambusters. One night, while inspecting the hangars, he heard the unmistakable sound of engines roaring to life. Confused, he approached the source and saw ghostly airmen preparing their planes for a mission. The apparitions moved with purpose, checking equipment and communicating silently. Parker recognized one of the figures as Wing Commander Guy Gibson, the leader of the dambusters' raid. The ghostly crew seemed unaware of Parker's presence, their faces focused and determined. As the engines roared louder, the airmen climbed into their planes, which then vanished into the night. The hangar fell silent, leaving Parker in stunned silence. He realized the spirits of the brave pilots were still readying for their missions, forever bound to their duty. Ghosts of the abandoned barracks. Fort Stevens, Oregon, USA. Private John Thompson was on a training exercise at the abandoned Fort Stevens. As he explored the dilapidated barracks, he felt an eerie chill. Suddenly, he saw shadowy figures in Civil War uniforms moving through the rooms. The air was filled with the faint sound of marching and distant gunfire. Thompson watched in horror as the apparitions reenacted battle scenes, their faces etched with pain and fear. One ghostly soldier turned to him, eyes pleading for help. Thompson's heart raced as he realized these were the spirits of soldiers who had died there, trapped in an endless loop of their final moments. The chilling sight left him shaken, a reminder of the past's lingering presence. Fort Stevens, once a bustling military base, now stood as a haunted monument.
Spectres of the Silent Watch. Dover Castle, England. Corporal Jack Davis was on night guard duty at Dover Castle, a fortress with a long history of military defense. As he patrolled the ancient corridors, he noticed figures in old uniforms patrolling alongside him. The figures moved silently, their faces stern and focused. Davis watched in awe and fear as these ghostly soldiers marched through walls and vanished into thin air. He heard the faint clinking of armor and whispered commands in Old English. One spectral soldier stopped and looked directly at him, eyes filled with sorrow. Davis felt an icy chill and an overwhelming sense of duty from these ancient warriors, still guarding the castle centuries after their deaths. He realized Dover Castle was not just a historic site. It was a place where the past lingered, and its defenders continued their silent watch. Haunting of Outpost Echo. Khe Sanh, Vietnam. Sergeant Carlos Rodriguez was stationed at Outpost Echo near Khe Sanh, a site infamous for its heavy casualties during the Vietnam War. One night, while on guard duty, he began hearing footsteps and faint voices. Initially dismissing them as his imagination, he soon realized the voices were speaking in Vietnamese and English, recounting battles and last words. The footsteps grew louder, pacing around the outpost. When he shined his flashlight, he saw shadowy figures of soldiers, both American and Vietnamese, walking aimlessly. Rodriguez's heart pounded as he recognized one of the figures as his fallen comrade, Private Lee. The realization hit him hard. These were the spirits of those who died there, unable to find peace. Haunted by their presence, Rodriguez couldn't escape the feeling that the outpost was a bridge between the living and the dead. Cursed Bunker. Berlin, Germany. Lieutenant David Green led a team to explore an abandoned WBO2 bunker in Berlin. As they descended into the damp, dark corridors, a sense of unease washed over them. The air grew colder, and strange noises echoed through the bunker. Green spotted movement out of the corner of his eye, a shadowy figure darting across the hallway. The team found old, blood-stained documents and photographs of soldiers. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and Green felt a sharp, icy grip on his shoulder. He turned to see a ghostly soldier, face contorted in agony. The soldier whispered in German, warning them to leave. Panic set in as more apparitions appeared, their hollow eyes filled with despair. The team fled, but the experience haunted Green. He realized the bunker was cursed, a final resting place for soldiers who met horrific ends, their spirits unable to move on. Shadows of the Forgotten Front. Gallipoli, Turkey. Lieutenant Michael Johnson had always been skeptical of ghost stories, but one night, while patrolling the trenches at Gallipoli, he saw shadowy figures moving through the mist. Initially thinking it was the enemy, he soon realized these figures moved silently and without purpose. As he watched, he recognized the uniforms of soldiers from the disastrous Gallipoli campaign, their faces etched with eternal anguish. These spectral figures seemed to be stuck in time, reliving their final moments. Johnson's blood ran cold as one figure turned to him, eyes hollow and pleading. He fled the scene, heart pounding, unable to shake the feeling that he had witnessed the restless spirits of those who had died in that terrible battle, forever trapped on the Forgotten Front. The Phantom Battalion. Captain Robert Miller and his platoon were lost in the fog of war during the Battle of Verdun. Exhausted and disoriented, they stumbled upon a battalion of French soldiers who silently led them to a safe zone. As dawn broke, Miller noticed the soldiers wore outdated uniforms and bore the insignia of a unit that had been decimated weeks earlier. He turned to thank them, but they had vanished without a trace. Rumors among the troops spoke of a ghostly battalion, guiding lost souls to safety. Miller, now a believer, felt a chill whenever he remembered their hollow eyes and silent march. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were still out there, waiting to aid the lost, trapped in an eternal battle. Whispers in no man's land, Ypres, Belgium. Private Tom Baker was on a night reconnaissance mission in no man's land near Ypres. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant sounds of war. As he crept through the desolate terrain, he began to hear faint whispers. They were voices of men, some speaking in languages he couldn't understand. The whispers grew louder, urging him to move left, then right, guiding him through the darkness. Terrified but compelled to follow, he found himself avoiding hidden traps and enemy patrols. Finally, he reached his camp safely. Breathless and shaken, Baker realized the whispers had saved his life. He later learned that countless soldiers had perished in no man's land, their souls trapped in the desolate expanse, guiding the living away from the same fate.